Changing weather can often be a blessing in many areas. Rainfall after a long period of drought can be a lifeline in drier places. At the same time, wetter areas can get some relief when the sun comes out and provides some much-needed warmth. Many people look to the forecast in anticipation of a change in the weather, preparing themselves for what's ahead. Sometimes, though, Mother Nature changes her mind. The Night of the Big Wind, also known as the Great Wind of 1839, was one of the most devastating storms to ever hit Ireland. It occurred on January 6th and 7th, 1839, and left a trail of destruction in its wake. January 6th is a less mainstream Christian holiday called the Feast of the Epiphany, which celebrates the visit of the three wise men to baby Jesus. In Ireland in the 19th century, most people would have been preparing for the celebration at the beginning of January. On the night of January 5th into the 6th, Ireland experienced heavy snowfall, something that was unusual for the area. The next day, there was more than enough snow for children outside to make snowmen, but the temperature quickly rose. Then at about 3 p.m. on the 6th, it started to rain and the wind picked up. Over the next few hours, the wind blew harder and the rain started to pour. It would occasionally switch to hail, which started damaging the thatched roofs that were common at the time. Off the coast, a low-pressure area began moving towards Ireland. As Captain Smith was sailing in the Irish Sea, he saw the storm build up and make its way toward land. When the cold front collided with the warmer air over the land, it created more wind, which eventually became a hurricane. From 10 p.m. the 6th until 6 a.m. the following morning, the storm pounded the country and threw waves as high as the cliffs of Moher. As people tried to hunker down in their houses, the wind made it almost impossible to keep candles and lanterns lit. They weathered the storm in complete darkness with only flashes from the lightning giving them a glimpse of the action. As the wind grew stronger, it began to tear structures apart. It tore roofs from houses and pushed chimneys from the roofs that didn't get blown away. It blew stone masonry off of buildings, and in turn the falling debris was the most common killer during the disaster. Along the Grand Canal, trees were pulled up by their roots and thrown across the water. Farms all across the country were destroyed, having their hay bales blown away and fences toppled. Crops were also destroyed, leading to starvation amongst livestock over the following months. The following day, the residents were able to survey the destruction, and it would quickly be realized that it was one of the worst storms the country had ever seen. Some believe that the storm, having come on the night of the Epiphany, was a divine warning that Judgment Day would soon arrive. Others believed that it was fairy wind. Either way, the area was completely devastated and the people would have to rebuild. The newly built St. Mary's Roman Catholic Church was completely destroyed. One of the steeples on the Church of Ireland was blown off and military barracks were toppled. The back wall of the Guinness Brewery collapsed and killed 9 horses. Many of the houses in the poorer areas were completely destroyed. 42 ships were wrecked during the storm, killing hundreds, including Captain Smith and his crew of 30 men. Nearly 100 fishermen off the coast of Skerries were killed. In fact, many of the casualties happened at sea. The estimates of casualties range from 250 to 800 people, one of whom was Lord Castlemaine, who was blown across the room while he was trying to secure the window shutters, and the impact killed him. In the aftermath of the storm, more deaths were attributed to health issues caused by the cold and wet conditions. Wild animals also suffered extreme losses as well. It was estimated that roughly 3 million trees had blown over, killing millions of wild birds and smashing their nests. People said the spring that year was unusually quiet with less birdsong. It would take years for the birds to recover and over a generation to restore the countryside to its former state. On top of that, people at the time would stash their life savings up the chimney or tucked in the roofing. Once the storm blew those parts of their houses away, they were left with nothing. Fortunately, the community banded together and helped each other out. People shared shelter, clothing, and food. One good thing would come out of the worst natural disaster in Irish history. Romney Robinson was the director of the Armagh Observatory when the big wind hit the country. He went on to invent the first cup anemometer, which is used to measure wind speed. The design is still used today. When the Old Age Pensions Act of 1908 was passed, providing pensions to citizens over the age of 70, a problem was discovered because many Irish Catholics born before 1863 didn't have birth certificates. It was made mandatory that year, but they weren't able to verify the ages of a number of Irish Catholics before then. The method they came up with was to ask the applicant in question if they remembered the night of the big wind. Over the years that follow, the people of Ireland rebuilt and recovered, but everyone who experienced the storm never forgot January 6, 1839, the night of the big wind. Thanks for letting us tell you this sinister story. If you enjoyed it, subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and hit like, rate it, or leave a comment. Join us next week when we'll take you somewhere sinister.